Welcome to Women Should Know, the podcast and online show that dives into conversations that every woman needs to hear. From career to confidence, relationships, and real life wisdom, we're keeping it unfiltered, raw, and real. I'm Nicole Hurst. Let's get into it. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Women Should Know show. I'm here today with Lisa, a wealth activator, and we are so excited to chat with you. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Nicole. Great to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I'm so excited to chat with you. Money is my favorite subject and I'm taboo, but I've been a business owner for a very long time. So I love money and just getting over money blocks. There's so much information with money. And we're not obviously in that side of it today, but I'm excited to chat about stuff.
Yes, I love money. That's why I date it.
So before we jump into the deep questions, tell me about you. Tell me what you do.
Okay, I'm a wealth activator. I'm also an independent insurance broker. I've been in finance and insurance since 1987. Yes, I'm that old. I love money. I love all things money. I love helping people multiply their money and save their money. And I fell into this at my first co-op job. I worked in an insurance company and I had a job where I would go through the pages of the phone book and call people and say, would you like to save $200 on your car insurance? And I got the biggest like dopamine hit from this because we'd actually save people money. And I'm like, okay, what is this all about? And so I just got into this trajectory of learning all about finances and not realizing, hey, we never learned this in school. And I just assumed people learned it as an adult, but I'm learning now that no, we're very
Mm.
financial literate. And so I get to help people manage their money, multiply it, and rewrite that money story so that they can create that financial freedom and security that they desire and deserve.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I always feel the same way. I feel the education system. I'm like, money should be a big topic in school. You should learn. I remember learning how to like write my checks in, like how to balance a checkbook. I think that was like the entirety of learning about money in my high school.
Yeah. And when I graduated in 1985 and I was on a business trajectory. So business classes, you learned about business math and you learned how to fill out a tax return and you learned about a checkbook and how to balance it. And that was the extent of it. Okay, this is all you're going to teach me? Like, my grandmother taught me this when I was like 8.
Yeah. Oh, that's crazy. Okay. So I'm going to jump into our question and I know we'll probably get off on tangents, but I'm going to start with what is a healthy way to budget? This was a client suggested question. So they want to know what a healthy way to budget is.
A healthy way to budget is to create a customized plan that's congruent with your lifestyle. Everyone thinks of budgets as this restrictive thing, but looking at it as self-care. What do I want my money to do for me? How would I love to spend my money on a daily, weekly, monthly basis? And when you can create that plan, that's going to be the best solution and it's going to make you feel good. It's going to make you feel calm and at peace because your money is going exactly where you want it to go. And I always say there's a general formula and we talk percentages because the amount of money, it doesn't matter. It's what you're doing with it. You're creating that plan. So 50%, 50% always goes for your needs. And then the other 50% you can put towards savings, towards travel, education. If you have debt, it would go towards that. And really just enjoying it and seeing like, how do I want this money to best serve me? And that is the healthiest way to do it.
Yeah. I love that because sometimes I feel like maybe you feel good when you go and buy an expensive coffee and it like helps you feel prepared and more productive. And as a business owner, when you're more productive, you can make more money. And it's not always about just, oh no, you can't go pick up Starbucks anymore. It's no, if that's part of your system, let's budget that in. Like,
Exactly, exactly. Because as soon as you restrict yourself, you immediately go out and do it anyways. Because we have in our subconscious, we have this story in running in the background that's telling us you're not worthy, you don't deserve it. And then you just do it anyways because we're rebellious by nature.
and
And when you say, I'm not buying Starbucks, well, guess what? You're going to go to Starbucks every single day because you've told yourself and now you want to rebel. You're like that with a little kid, that 5-year-old that's just throwing a temper tantrum. I want my own way.
yeah. I've told myself plenty of times I'm not going to Starbucks and plenty of times I go anyway. So yes, I agree.
Give yourself permission. It's self-love.
But it's easier if you're like, okay, I'm just going to budget for Starbucks. Like I'm going to go 3 times a week and Yeah. And then you do feel good about when you're going because, I don't know, like you savor more or whatever. Like you just,
You do. Yeah, you absolutely do.
our other submitted question was, how can women balance spending on themselves with long-term financial goals? I think we hit that one, but I know like in like my circle or my clients, they feel guilty spending money on themselves because they have families and spouses and
And that's exactly true. I have clients who will not get their hair done. When they first come working with me in the Wealth Accelerator, they're like, I haven't had my hair done in 3 years. And I'm like, why? The kids need this, the kids need that. I'm like, okay, let's dive deeper into that because don't you deserve to get your hair done? And there's this guilt about spending money on ourselves. There's this idea that we're selfish if we prioritize ourselves. So really, again, looking at it and saying, you know what? I have the ability to work and to earn money. I also have the ability to create a plan. And I'm sure you've heard it before, fail to plan to fail. And this, a lot of times the health industry will say that if you don't plan your meals, then you're gonna not be able to keep up with that, whatever your health goals are. Thing with finances, if you don't plan on how your money is being spent, if you don't set aside money specifically for your financial goals, for long-term financial goals, like so many of us are living for the moment. Oh, retirement's so far away. I'm only in my 30s. What do I need to worry about retirement? Or I'm also an independent insurance broker, and a lot of people won't get health care because it's too much money. I'm like, do you know how much money it costs if an accident happens? You
yeah,
break your leg, and that's going to cost you a lot of money. So being prepared and realizing we get to plan how we want to spend our money and create things that we love and having that healthy relationship with money. So when you think about I have a money multiplier system. And one of the things that we do is we create a fun fund. So I like to call them money buckets. So we have a little money bucket and fun money. I like to put a minimum of 10% in there and we get to do whatever we want to. At the same time, we have 10% going to savings. And if you have no debt, we increase that to 20 to 30%. So if you take 30% of your income, you're debt free, and you're using that for your long term financial goals, for your emergency savings, your investments, you're building up that nest egg for retirement so you can have that exit plan. There's always that balance on it. It automatically gets balanced. If you think about spinning plates, there's all the hats that we wear as entrepreneurs. Like we could be a mom, we could be a wife, we're managing multiple businesses, we're taking care of our teams, we're volunteering, we're doing all these things, right? And we're trying to spin all these plates at once. And they're not even because we might spend 50% of our time volunteering and then 20% of our time doing this, and then we're not spending any time with ourselves. So we get exhausted, we burn out faster. And so when we can put that balance and say, okay, let me look at this, let me establish some boundaries and say, okay, I'm going to prioritize me first because when I'm at my optimal, I'm going to be able to help and serve others better. I'm going to be well rested and I'm going to enjoy myself. Like it doesn't matter how much money you make. Say you make $100,000, right? 10% for fun. Aren't you worth it? You deserve it, right? It's only a small percentage if you think of the big retrospective what all of your money is going, especially when you have your money bucket set up already on automation for long-term financial goals. It's really a form of self-care, and your money multiplies when you implement that thought process, that strategy of, you know what? No, it's not selfish. And this helps me to be a better person. It helps me to serve better. And then more money ends up coming your way because you're creating that reciprocal energy of giving and receiving.
yeah. I can agree more. I can't remember what book I read it in, but there was like a story on the same lines and they had $1,000 or whatever it was. They had a bulk of money that they wanted to use for a trip. And then they really needed a couch. And the husband was like, no, we got to get this new couch. And the wife was like, we're going on this trip. This is planned. And he was like, that was the best trip of our life. He's like, and of course we got a couch a month or two later. And we've had 10 couches in our lives. I can't tell you what couch it was, but I can tell you like huge details about this trip. And I think it's important that we remember to have fun money and to go have experiences. And it's not always about getting the responsible thing. It's about creating a life, but also being a little responsible.
Exactly. And I always like to say, if you create your fund like every December 31st, my husband and I sit down and we look at the year and we're like, okay, how do we want to spend our money this year? And we put in the trips. And if we need new furniture, we need to remodel a room or whatever, it's included. And then we can do the 12-month goals and then we can reverse and say, okay, what's the 1 month goal, the 3 month goal? the 9-month goal. And then again, like you know what you're gonna make. Like I always say, the flack I get is I get commissions. I don't know. I work on commissions as well as an independent insurance broker. You can predict it. The rule of thumb is look at your commissions last year and increase it by 10% because you're going to do your business unless, of course, you have an exit plan.
Yeah. How often, I know you said you guys sit down at the end of the year and then you can look at quarter or monthly. How often do you sit down with your partner and actually look at the budget and adjust as needed?
We have very fixed expenses. So we both retired from our career jobs in 2021. So we do it once a year, when usually in January, because that's when cost of living increases and we'll have to do some adjustments. But we're always monitoring it monthly. So we date money. So every day my husband dates money. He looks at his assets, he's looking at the stock markets, he's looking to see how our investments are doing. And then I do it once a week. So once a week I sit down with money, I look at all of the investments and the savings and I celebrate that. And then I look at the expenses and I love to spend money. So I have a money archetype quiz and there's 7 different archetypes. I'm
I've
still
done that. I've done that.
Who are you?
My husband's an accumulator, which makes sense because he's great at saving money. Then I'm a maverick because I'm good at spending money. It's
Beautiful. When we think about that, like what drives us, we all have all the personalities in us, but when we think about what's our driver, I love to spend money. I love to experience things. I love to have nice things. I love to remodel the home and things of that nature. And I don't want to feel guilty doing that. So when you think about sitting down with your money and looking at, okay, this month, maybe you got extra money, you got a windfall coming in. It's tax season. So maybe people are getting tax refunds. And you think about, oh, what do I want to do with this money? I have extra money. So always having a plan for it and thinking about when writing it down, and maybe it's a goal. Maybe you want to go to Disney. I live an hour and a half from Disney. So a lot of people want to go to Disney. Okay, let's make it a goal. We'll go to Disney in March or April. And then you have that set, and then it's like that vision board. What if you visualize how you want your money to spend, how you want to spend your money before you get it, you're always going to use it in a way that makes you feel powerful. It makes you feel calm and I got the money for that. I don't need to worry about this. It's covered.
yeah. What's your archetype?
See, I have my own money archetype. I have a podcast, I Date Money, and the woman that created that, or one of her clients actually told me about that, and I have a podcast episode that compares them. So I don't remember the 4. There's 4 of them, right?
I think I don't know. I know because like I was like tied with, I said Maverick, but I think I was tied with like Ruler and Maverick. And then my husband was like straight out accumulator. So I don't know. I feel, yeah. And I don't know the name of it. I did it through Denise. But I think she was a facilitator for someone. So I don't know the actual name of it. But
Yeah. Yeah, because it was like a year and a half ago. But for mine, I have 7 money archetypes. We did match them up with the one that you're talking about. I'm still the spender, so I'm the spender all the way. I like to spend the money and I like to share it with others. I'm also a giver. There's Grant the giver. He is one of the archetypes, and he's my second one, my second driver.
I love it. I'll have to go look up that podcast and see and do that quiz too.
Yeah,
I can tell you, I love the topic of money.
Yeah, and when we can get to know what drives our spending patterns, we think about everyone thinks I'm just going to make more money and then I'll be able to do, but when I make more money, I'll be able to have more money and therefore I can pay down my debt, for example, or I'll be able to get that bigger house or that nicer car. But what happens is we make more money and we spend more money and we never accomplish the goals because we don't want to pay attention to it. And the psychology of money plays a major factor in how we're growing wealth. And wealth is something different for all of us. And when we think about, not everybody wants to be a millionaire, but people want to be wealthy. And when you think about what's my definition of true wealth? And one of the questions I ask my clients when they first come to work with me in the Wealth Accelerator is, what's your number? What's the number that you need to bring in every month that's going to make you feel secure, that's going to give you that that financial freedom and that peace that you desire? So it's really important that thoughts drive and dictate
Spending, yeah. And I've always heard that too. The more you make, the more you spend. So I think having a budget and a plan, I think is obviously crucial. And so most of like my audience right now is between 30 and 50. How would you suggest women approach like saving for retirement if they feel like they're starting late?
It's never too late to start. As soon as you can. I've helped women in their 60s begin a retirement fund, and that's really late because you are anything past 59 and a half, you're like, what can I invest in? But there are different investment vehicles. There's annuities, there's index funds, there's different life insurance policies that you can invest in where you can cash borrow. And there's of course my favorite. So if you're 30 in your 30s, if you have the option to do, if you're working for a corporate, you have the option to do a 401k, fully fund it. As a self-employed individual, you can get a similar, an IRA,
Mhm.
similar investment vehicle, fully funded. But even better so, if you have to choose between what investment you want to do, I highly recommend a Roth IRA. If you're in the United States, a Roth IRA, if you're 20 years old and you start putting money into a Roth IRA, by the time you're 60, you're going to have over $1 million, and it's all tax free. So what's better than that? But really, like, just starting small, like investing in different funds like index funds, bonds. There's three types of investors. There's conservative, moderate, and then risk takers. Really knowing where you're at and what you're comfortable investing in. And I say, take your age minus 100. That difference is going to be the percentage that you want to go risk. And it's safe to say that, so if you're 30 years old, you're going to high risk 70%, you're going to go into stocks. You're going to go into international markets and buy things that you would support, the Apple products. Do a Google search. What are the top 5 best performing stocks? AI is really popular right now. I think, do I want to invest in this? And then look at it. You can look at the history and go back and see how it's performed. And then just invest in that. You can connect with any of the financial companies. I like Fidelity. I've been with them since 1998. And there's a self-directed fund, and you could set it up, and 70% goes to those stocks. And then the other 30%, you can be more conservative. You can do mutual funds, government bonds, and just have a mix. You don't want to have all your money in one pot, because if it crashes, you've heard the thing, don't put your eggs all in one basket. You want to diversify. But if you want to start small, do the Roth IRA. And yes, you can save and invest even if you're paying off debt. Like, people think that they have to, I gotta be debt free before I can start saving. No, you can do it simultaneously. It's just strategically creating that spending plan so that you can.
No, I love that. And as you're saying, that it made me feel good because when I worked a corporate job, they had Roth RRA. So that's what I set up, and that's what I contribute to. And it's through Fidelity. So I feel like I have some of those pieces together. So that's good. I haven't been so good about putting money toward it since I quit my corporate job. So I need to get back into that habit. But
Yeah, do it on automation. Don't just set it up automatically. Pay yourself first, because this is your. And if you think about, what do I want to do? A lot of entrepreneurs say, well, I'm going to do this until I'm 80. Great. But do you really want to be fully present doing it full time, or do you want to be able to travel and do things and walk away, take a sabbatical from your business? And when you have those money set aside for your retirement, your investments, or scaling back, you have that option.
I think it's easy to say, no, I'll do this till I'm 80, but really a lot of times you physically can't, or you mentally can't. And you don't know. Right, for myself, I don't know right now, sitting here at 40 years old, what I'm going to feel like in 40 more years. So it's easy to say now, but that's not always the case. So yeah, I think it's good to be prepared. But I also love that you mentioned putting money into things that you enjoy. If like I bought like stock for one of the cruise lines because my husband and I like to go on cruises. And I'm like, no, I feel like travel's fairly safe. We're not in our 60s. So now I feel this is a good one. And this is one of the cruise lines we like and whatever. And so that's where we had purchased some stock. So I think it's just interesting because I know if we like them, then other people are going to like them. They're probably going to be okay. And yeah, I love that you mentioned that.
Mhm.
And then I know we're already talking about it, but if someone's never invested before, do you have any tips for them? Like how to get started?
Yeah, learn as much as you can. Get the basics. There's tons of YouTube channels, YouTube information, Google Doc. You can Google it. One of my favorite things to do is ask ChatGPT. ChatGPT, what are the basics of financial literacy? And he'll give you, I call him a he. He'll go over there and give you like, what's the definition of a certificate of deposit? What's APY? What's APR? And go through that and just have an understanding. Like when you get ready to invest, you want to know like what the S&P is, what the Dow Jones is, how it's performing, and what happens when you invest your money. One of the things as an independent insurance broker, I sell annuities, and most people don't even know what that is. And it's for a select group of people who want to invest in. There's a lot of loopholes in it, and it's not for everybody. And to understand that at a level, sometimes you have to meet with somebody one-on-one so that you can really get those questions answered that are particular to you. Because there's so many different ways that, like, one of the questions I get asked all the time is, well, how do I pay less taxes? It's okay. Pay your
Legally.
tax- Right.
Legally pay less taxes.
Yeah, legally pay less taxes. And there's a strategy where you can save money on taxes just by allocating your funds appropriately in different investment vehicles. Living trust is one of them, annuities, IULs, those are different things. So that sounds like a foreign language. And if it is, read about it, find out as much information, contact a financial person and say, hey, I just wanted to, there's lots of online courses that you can take. I have on my YouTube channel, I Date Money Talks. I did a couple weeks ago, I did a workshop for moms and their kids on the basics of finances. And it just gives you simple processes of some people. I work with widows who don't even know how to balance their checkbook because their husbands have taken care of it. And they're coming to me and they're like, Lisa, you got to show me how to manage my money. And I'm, okay. And literally, I'm teaching them how to balance a checkbook. And I know some of you guys don't do that. I know the younger generation, they just pull up. You guys got to double check this stuff. I was a treasurer. I still am a treasurer for not-for-profits for over 30 years. And we have a triple check system. You can't trust the bank not to make mistakes. You can't trust yourself not to make mistakes. And there's always those automation payments. Like I have a life insurance policy that I pay once a year. It comes out in January. I know that it comes out, but I'll be darned, every year I forget to put it in and it comes out and I'm like, what's that money come out of my account? And it's, oh yeah, that's that insurance policy. So really planning on it and knowing like, what is this for and why am I spending my money this way and what's it going to do? Like a lot of times people don't want to get life insurance and it's okay. GoFundMe is not an insurance plan. Life insurance is necessary. And even if you're single, it's necessary because when you die, you're leaving things behind. Maybe you're leaving a house, you're leaving a business, you're leaving maybe some debt. How do you want those things to be divvied up? Who do you want to leave them to? If you have 10, 15 grand sitting in a checking account, who do you want? You want the government to get that money? No, you want to have a plan for it. And then like when you pass away, do you want to be buried? Do you want to be cremated? Do you want to have this all planned out? And this is different things that you can invest in for that security, for that knowledge. So I always say, think about what it is. If I were to die right now, what kind of a financial situation am I leaving? Am I prepared? Do my loved ones have enough money in my account to pay for the burial, to pay off my debt, can they sell my car? Can they do this? Whatever it is, right? Think about all the things that you own and create that plan. And this is part of the investment strategy. So many people think investing is just, getting that 401k, buying crypto, Bitcoin, whatever. That's not, buying real estate. That's huge. That's not all. Investment is looking at your portfolio and saying, I want my money to multiply and work for me in this way. I want to be cared for. If something happens to me, I don't want especially if you're married, do you want your spouse to be stuck with a $250,000 mortgage? I had a client he was a lawyer and he had a wife who stayed at home. They had 5 kids. She knew nothing about the money, nothing. He died very young. He was in his 40s. He had a heart attack. They lived in this big, huge house with a high mortgage, very low. And they just built it like 2 years prior. So they didn't have a lot of equity in. He passed away. She had to move. She had no income. They were so much in debt between the business and the house that they didn't have enough money to literally pay their mortgage. So she had to sell the house and she had to move into a lower house. He had no insurance. He had no life insurance. So she literally had to ask her family and friends to pay for the burial. And could you imagine? She was devastated.
Well, and you're already grieving. You already have so much. Yeah.
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 And
That's,
then I have 5 young children. I think her youngest was like 4 months old and her oldest was like 6 or something. And to have all that on you, and it's just, you want to be prepared. You want to think about your investments as a strategy, not only for your exit plan for your business or for retirement, but also for your death and what's going to make you the most amount of money. And then be okay with spending it, because a lot of us, we have all these investments and we're like, oh, I don't want to spend that money. It's got to last me until I'm 90. So you retire, like I retired at 54, I'm 57 now. And I'm like, I have all my assets. And if I withdrew, X amount of dollars every month, it's going to last me until I'm 90. But then every time I make a draw, was this going to last me until I'm 90? I better hold on to it. I better not make that purchase. It's no, forget it. I'm taking that trip. I'm going to buy that new car. It'll be there. It's fine.
you worked hard for it. You should be able to enjoy it. Like, I do think it's important to make sure like our loved ones don't have a whole bunch of debt and all of the expenses and stuff. But I also think it's important that we can enjoy the money that we worked hard for, and that we, can feel like we're living life and not just like living to or working to not have debt.
Exactly. Yeah, you definitely want to have that balance.
Yeah.
And that's why the plan is so important.
Yeah, and I love it. So I know you talked about like the insurance stuff. It sounds so you have a podcast of your own. Is that right?
Yes.
I love that. And then it sounds like you also have a course, or is it like one-on-one? How do you work? If someone wants to work with you and make more money or make their money work for them, what does that look like?
Yeah, so I have my Wealth Accelerator, and what it is we do small group coaching. So we focus on, if there's debt, we specifically focus on paying down that debt, creating an I Love Debt worksheet. If they have no debt, we build out their investments. So the first thing we do is create a customized wealth activation roadmap where we have a spending plan that's congruent to their lifestyle, and we set up their goals, and we get them in the habit of dating their money, of allocating funds exactly how they want to spend it. And then we focus on multiplying that money, making simple moves so that they can their money is making money for them and autopilot. So it's way better than passive income because you don't have to do anything. It is coming through. And I say that because passive income, the way that it's portrayed in the internet is you have to be an affiliate marketer and, just show this picture and then you'll make money off of it. That's not how it works. But when you have your money multiplying for you in the right investments, you're earning interest, and that money is multiplying. Like my ROI in my one investment was over 18%. So like I look at my balance, it grew by 18%. That's a huge percentage. I didn't have to do anything for it other than put it into that one investment and watch it ride and know that I did my homework, did my research, and knew that was a good investment. So we really focus on that part of it. And then we look at the money stories that we tell ourselves. So we get a money story glow up. We look at how we think, how we feel about money. We all buy from emotion, and we look at our patterns. I have a client who set up her wealth activation roadmap. She did her 10% fund money. She did her 10% emergency savings account. And then for her fund money, she labeled it her travel account. Her and her husband went on a trip. She didn't feel like she had enough money in her travel money, so she took her savings and filed in with her travel. And when she got back from her trip, we had our meeting, and I was like, what was that all about? Why did you co-mingle those funds? She's like, I didn't feel like I had enough. I said, okay, let's dive deeper into that. So we get into that, really to the root cause of what's driving us from not wanting to create this spending plan, from not wanting to multiply our money, because we say we want to do it, but then we get overwhelmed and we got the kids, we got the business, we got this. I don't have time to sit down with my money, or that's not going to work for me. So we do it without a restrictive budget. We do it in a simple plan. I have a money multiplier system that we implement. And just by tweaking things, like I do both. I work with divorced mompreneurs. So we look at the business, because a lot of times they'll commingle their personal and their business. So we set up their business plan, we set up their personal plan, and then we come together and we implement the practice. We have that accountability piece where it's, okay, did you date your money this week and how did it go? Tell me what you did with your money this week. How are you spending your money this week? And then we get to the root cause, and it's a customized program that's unique to each individual. So we come together in small groups and then we have monthly one-to-one calls.
That's awesome. Do you also help people pick investments, or are you okay?
Yep. And I look at their insurance needs. So I make sure that they're adequately insured, that they're not paying for insurance that they don't need. And we look at the investments. I help them set up their investment accounts. I am not a financial advisor, so I tell them when I help you choose, it's my own personal journey after doing this since 1987. But I've been finding out that a lot of women, especially over 60, they're like, hey, can you help me invest? A lot of the companies are using AI to do it for them. And so I'll go in and I'll look and I'll say, okay, this isn't good because of this. Look at the history. And I'll teach them what to look for. There's 3 things that you want to look for. And that's what I teach in the Wealth Accelerator, so that you're making a wise investment in that. AI is wonderful. I love it, but you don't want to rely on it solely to create a portfolio, especially if you don't know your goals. So you want to know what those goals are and then reverse engineer it so that it can work for you.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I love the way you're explaining it too, because I feel like we do spend with emotions and people don't really understand that when they're spending money. They're just like, I would say blindly spending, but, and so I think it's important that you realize the root cause of that. Did you go shopping because you're having a bad day, or are you bored? Are you sitting at home buying online because you're bored? So yeah, I think it's important to realize that's why you're spending money. And a lot of that, I think, stems from a lot of different issues. Anyways, that's a whole nother topic. But I love the way you're explaining it and reverse engineering it. As a photographer, I'm very leery of AI. I do use it to help me with like social media posts or whatever, but I get so sad when I see people making like fake images. I'm like, don't put your face into AI. I don't know. I'm leery, but I haven't really used ChatGPT for like finance stuff before. So I was intrigued when you mentioned that, like asking it questions and stuff about finances.
Yeah, and like I said, you have to know. We always say, I retired from the Social Security Administration, and you have to know junk in, junk out. So you have to know what you're putting in and what it's spitting out, and to understand. That's why it's so important to research and read. The more knowledge you can get, the more you can read and understand and read different things from different people, because we all have a little bit of a different viewpoint. But like the standard in the industry is, you have money, it needs to be managed. And how you manage that money is important, and how it's aligned with your values. And the underlying thing is how we feel when we're using that money, because so many people will feel guilty from the way that they were raised. But if you think about it, it's the ancestors from generation to generation. And like when we've been through the depression, when you think about how frugal they were because they had to be. And then that fear of, I have clients who did not want to open up a bank account. Okay, what's going on with that? I have clients that don't want to do automation. No, I need to be in control. I got to pay that bill. I have clients who still write out checks. I'm
Well,
like,
but I do like to be in control.
yeah. And knowing that about yourself is so important, because when people come to work with me, I don't have, okay, you're going to do this. If that's not congruent with them, they're going to be like, no, this isn't for me. This isn't going to work. And I think that's why a lot of times we fail with managing our money and multiplying it, because it's not in alignment with how we want our money to be. It's not in alignment with our values. It's not in alignment with our lifestyle. And it just doesn't make sense. And a lot of times I'll see people, like when I say 50%, every time I get an increase, I'm going to increase my food. No, I mean, you're going to have fixed expenses. Your mortgage is going to be fixed, your car payment. You can have a set amount for groceries. Like my husband and I, we spend $1,000 a month on groceries, personal items, and little things like that, right? Miscellaneous items. We don't go over that amount. If we want to go over that amount, we look and say, okay, if we go over that amount, where is it coming from? And then you have to you're going to make more money to cover it, or you're going to take from one of the other money buckets. And then what are you depriving yourself of for this instant gratification? So the
Yeah.
rule of thumb is, like when you go to make a purchase, whether it's online, in person, if it's a service, a product, whatever, think about it. Do I need this? Why am I purchasing it? What's its purpose? Will I use it next week, 3 months from now, 6 months from now? What's its value? What's the ROI? Because one of the things, if you're an emotional spender like myself, and you don't ever feel worthy or good enough, you're always telling yourself this story that I'm not enough, and you're self-sabotaging. You are going to spend money like crazy. I racked up $100,000 worth of debt because I didn't feel worthy. At 17, I found myself pregnant 3 times before the age of 17. 2 of those pregnancies ended in abortion. I was 16 years old, right? I spent my whole entire adult life feeling shameful and guilt and like dirt and trash and just horrible. And even after I became a mom, I have 3 beautiful adult children. I still didn't feel worthy and I wanted to do everything for them. It's like I was trying to make up for all of my mistakes. And so
Yeah.
I spent money and I kept it for my husband. I racked up $100,000 worth of debt. And when he found out, because I hid it, he accused me of financial infidelity. And it was just like, so the shame and the guilt, I felt like I was drowning in quicksand. And I felt like there was so much pressure on me. It's just like, why? And I knew I've been in this industry since 1987. Why couldn't I do better? And
Yeah.
these emotions just kept going. And I was like, and when I hit 40, and I didn't even know how much money I had racked up. And at 45, I was just like, man, I'm getting all these bills for credit cards through email. And I'm like, what am I doing? What is wrong with me? I need help. And then I started looking for financial coaches, and I'm a financial coach. And I'm like, what am I even going to say? And I remember getting on a call with one of them, and I was just like, yeah, I don't need your help. I don't need you to show me how to budget. I didn't know what I needed, but I knew it wasn't a money problem. I knew it was a me problem. So then across a spiritual coach who used art to help me break through the root cause of why I was spending all this money. I didn't feel worthy. And then I learned self-care and I learned gratitude and I learned how to look within and I learned how to love myself, and it was a game changer. And that was the pivotal point where I finally sat down and I looked and I created my wealth activation roadmap and I said, wow, even after I pay off this $100,000 worth of debt, I still am a self-made millionaire. I had no idea I was a millionaire because I had everything set up on autopilot because I told myself I'm not worthy. I'm not good with money. Money burns a hole in my pocket. Therefore, I'm going to take it away. I'm going to put everything on automation. So all my investments were building up. I set up my 401k. I did my 100 minus my age, and I did all my investments. I would check it once a year because I would age, obviously. And so I would readjust it once a year. And then I ignored it. I don't want to see that. And when I looked at it, I was in tears. I was sobbing. And I was just like, I literally curled up in a ball. And I just felt all those emotions. And it was just like the little girl inside of me was like so relieved that I finally stopped ignoring her. Because every time I swiped a card, every time I bought something online, every time I went to the store, I went on a trip, I bought my kids' cars, I went education, I had all kinds of good things that I did with that money, that I did with that debt. But it gave me that temporary dopamine hit, and then it was it. So then I turned to alcohol, and I just drank it. I became a drunk. And then these self-sabotage patterns that we do, and I have to say today is my 150th day of being alcohol free. So yay me. It's
I'm gonna get it.
yeah.
Lovely.
And that's a journey in itself. And I think not only did alcohol help me stop drinking, help me save money, but it taught me so much about taking care of me and understanding that like when we're self-sabotaging, whether it's overeating, over drinking, overspending, we are replacing that need inside of us that's telling us. If we just sit with our emotions and listen to that little girl inside of us that's tapping, that's saying, pay attention to me, please. Like, just process this emotion. I tell my clients all the time, they're like, I'm tired of being grateful for things. I just want to complain. I go, set your timer for 5 minutes and just complain then. You need self-care.
Yeah. I love that. And honestly, that's where I was like, that's a whole other thing. Cause that's what I was hinting at. Like people, they don't feel good about themselves. And so it just becomes a way to get a dopamine hit and just to feel good for 5 minutes. Oh, I did this thing. I bought a pretty shirt. Whatever it is, but so much of it comes down to just not feeling worthy and not feeling good enough. And I love that you shared that with us because obviously that's your personal journey, but a lot of people have shame on even just like sharing that. So I know your story is hard, but it's beautiful. And I thank you for sharing.
Thank
Yeah, no, it's a journey, but
Yeah.
it's so interesting how money, because it seems like it's just like this simple tool and it harbors feelings and emotions. And so much of it comes from how your parents treated money. Like if your parents weren't good at money, then you're not good at money or you feel like you're not good at money. I don't know. There's just so many generational things that roll down.
Yeah, and that both my parents were entrepreneurs, and I saw my dad like just blow his money. He was definitely a gambler. And I saw my mom like just work really hard and build up her business and provide for us. but she complained about money constantly. And every Friday she would sit down and do her money, do her budget, and she would say, I got to borrow from Peter to pay Paul. And I'd be like, who's Peter and who's Paul? And why are you borrowing from them? Basically didn't have, she wanted to buy good food for us. And I had 3 older brothers. So there's 4 of us, 3 brothers and me. And boys eat way more than girls do. But she couldn't buy the food that she wanted to and still meet all of her expenses. So she would always borrow from the gas and electric to buy the food, and then I'll replace it later. I'll replace it later. And this is like a habit that a lot, when my clients come to work with me, this is exactly what they're doing. I'll pay for it later. I'll do this. One of the most common things I hear is I have multiple income streams because I work full time in corporate or in my business, but then I also have, this income. And then I got that income because I was going to use it to pay down the debt. I was going to use it to save for vacation, but then something else happened and they get triggered and and we do it automatically. We don't even think about how many times we hit the buy button at Amazon, or we'll hop in our car. I had a client who every day for lunch, he had to go out for lunch. And I'm like, and lunch is what, $20 pop? And she's, I don't, yeah. And then we would want to do like a girls trip on the weekend, or her friends would want to do a girls trip on the weekend. And she would tell them, I can't because I don't have any money. If you stopped eating out every single day. So really, conscious spending is so important if you want to build wealth. You have to know where your money's going. And if you know where your money's going before you get it, one of Dave Ramsey's big thing is like every dollar has a job. And what everyone tells you is you plan your budget, your spending, and then you allocate. As soon as you get your money, you put that in there, and then you start to allocate your expenses. And by the end of the month, you should be balanced out to 0.
Yeah.
How many people do that?
100, 2 out of 100. It's not a very good percentage.
It is a very
No.
it's a very small percentage. People say they want to do that, but they don't want to do it. And that's why I created my Wealth Activation Roadmap. So when my clients come into the Wealth Accelerator, they get the exact spending plan that they can quickly look at. They can just open it up on their phone or on their laptop, and they can see, oh, okay, I have X amount of dollars in this money bucket, and this is what I'm going to do, and that's how I'm going to take it. And it just makes it so simple. It's easy. It's not restrictive. And it's a no-brainer because, oh, I have X amount of dollars to go spend on fun. Okay, cool. What am I going to do? And then go do it, and there's no guilt. There's no shame.
Yeah. I love that. One quick question. I know you mentioned Dave Ramsey. So if someone does have 6 figures of debt and they're trying to pay it off, I know you said you recommend still investing and still making your savings count. Do you agree, or do you recommend like the snowball effect that he promotes? Is that?
Yeah, snowball or the avalanche, it just really depends. I know some of my clients use the avalanche method because they have 0%. Or they have very low interest. So the rule of thumb, if your interest rate is below 7%, the avalanche works really well. You take the higher interest rates and you pay those off first to save interest. I'm all about saving money on interest. So when you can get a 0% interest, part of my Wealth Accelerator, and I actually do sell this separately as well, is a Crush on Debt program. And the Crush on Debt program teaches the snowball and or the avalanche. We go through it when clients on board. We're like, okay, let's look at your debt. We make a map of it. And then I look at it and say, okay, this will be more beneficial for you because of A, B, and C. And it works. And as long as they implement the method, most of them get debt free within a year and their credit scores go up by 100 points.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Okay. So I know we're running out of time. Is there anything you want to share with our audience before I have you share your contact information?
Save now, pay yourself first, and really invest in yourself through self-care. When you start to love on yourself and compliment yourself, look in the mirror. One of the things, we have 6 non-negotiable steps in the Wealth Accelerator, and the one is every day you look in the mirror and you compliment yourself. And you end the day with celebrating a win. Implementing this simple step is what builds wealth because you start to see yourself differently. And when you know you're worthy to receive, money automatically comes. Money is the result of what we're doing in our life.
I love that. And I know I mentioned I'm a photographer, but I'm constantly trying to build people up and make them feel good about themselves and So I love that you said that because it just ties in that feeling good about yourself and having self-confidence really changes so much about like your life. Like I've had clients who come in and then they get a promotion and or they start losing weight or they start like just whatever, because when you feel good about yourself, you treat yourself better. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I love that. Okay. And then share with us if someone wants to work with you, to first tell us how they can find you, your podcast and stuff, and then the best way to contact you or web link or whatever to be in touch.
Yeah, so you can visit me at idatemoney.com. There you'll find information on my programs, take the money archetype quiz, and a link to my podcast. I have solo episodes and guest episodes with all kinds of financial tips and strategies and money stories that will help you get to the next level. And Instagram is where I'm most active. So in I Date Money podcast is my handle. And you can send me a direct message there. But every day I share some kind of a financial tip, strategy, or story about my journey and becoming a self-made millionaire.
I love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nicole, for having me.
That's a wrap on this episode of Women Should Know. Did you love it? Then hit the subscribe button, leave a review, and share it with a friend. You can also find me on social media under Women Should Know, because the conversation doesn't stop here. I'll see you next time. Bye.